right, and we are a go episode 4 of Above Spirituality. We are not in our usual locale today. We made it out to Elgin, Illinois. We're at the home of Mubashir Mastwaari and his beautiful wife. Having our interview, Mubashir and the family run a really incredible love mission in the Sufi tradition. That Mubashir, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you guys do.
Yes, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. All praise is due to God, and all the divinity is from God, and everything we do is for service for the Creator. And the message that we give is of love. This is my spiritual master, Makhtoom Mahmood Mastwar Qalandar. He is he changed my life, and once I met him, I met divinity. I met with an ego death, and I experienced truth and oneness with his presence, gaze, and grace. So, this work of Love Mission is to represent the reality and truth, and understanding that we have many more similarities than differences, and those similarities take us to the peak of knowing ourselves, realizing ourselves. And this is the work we're doing here for many years, over 13 years in the Chicagoland, and also many different students that join on Zoom from different parts of the world. We also take care of their time. We want to be respectful of their time, so we have scheduled the meetings on a Friday night on a certain hour, so it is perfect for everybody all over the world, and it's comfortable for the attendees here. Most of our work is very it's love, right? So of course it's spirituality, meditation, zikr, which is the chants of the holy names of God. Understanding that anybody that comes from any background, any religion, this is all from the Creator Himself, and everyone is a bed of roses in a garden. Everybody brings a different scent to the world, and we should appreciate that expression. And this is humanity, this is religion, this is peace, this is calmness, this is love, and this is how we should all interact with one another. And the work you guys are doing, we are very thankful that you guys are presenting spirituality all over the world with your channel. So we appreciate you, Gino and Alexander. And this work is very important in today's time. Any angle that you're doing the work from, it all is coming from a divine place. As you are doing this work, you may have been touched very deeply, and the Creator Himself is taking your vessel and doing the work of His through you, through us, through any of us. So similarly, we are doing this work of meditation and zikr and love, so everybody can have a beautiful character. They're healed, they're calm, they're peaceful, they have a good life in the physical reality, which is your work, your career. You're calm, you're peaceful, because you have reached a peak of your knowing thyself, understanding that within the heart is the light of the Creator Himself, and you are to realize that. And once you realize that, there happens to come a ego's death. When that ego's death arrives, then you become pure consciousness, and then you understand the God, the Allah, the Bhagwan, any name that you give the one Creator. You will understand that this is the essence. It's not just material, it's not just physical, but there is something divine within us. As my spiritual master says, that this body is not a small thing. There's a treasure in it. There's a beautiful divine treasure in it. And that treasure is to be realized, recognized. So, this is some of the work that we are doing, and hope to continue to spread this word and this awareness that there is a knowing thyself. And as my spiritual master says, self-realization is God realization. When you recognize yourself, you recognize God.
Ah, you always have such a way of speaking, and there's a couple of things that you brought up that I'm going to love to circle back to in a couple minutes. Um, and we've known each other for what, about like 6 or maybe even 7 years at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, and uh, to start off, I'd love to ask, and I know it's going to be a little bit more of like a physical thing before we
Sure.
dive back into it. But obviously, a number of our viewers might have already seen a little bit about what you do at the video we put out a couple weeks ago. But I would love if you could recount for me and for our friends the story of like how you came to your current path and like where you came from. I love that story. If you would recall it for us again.
Yeah, growing up, in the West, we all know that uh, we are having a blast at a young age. We're having a good old time in every angle possible. So that's where it begins. you know. There's no talk about spirituality. There's no God involved. There's no religion involved. None of that is going on. Although your parents try their best to teach you,
Yeah,
and
especially not up here in like the north. Maybe you go a
yeah,
little south, but then it's a little more Christian.
yeah. So you have a good old time. And once I came to, I think I was 23 years old, I started thinking. I grew up in the Islamic faith, and I started thinking that maybe I should get nearer to my faith. Actually, it wasn't even faith, to be quite honest. At a certain age, something hit me, and I just desired to know God. That's all I cared about. It was not about religion. It was not about, if I do good in my religion, rules and regulations or whatnot, that, I will go to heaven or I'll be saved from the hellfire. It was not about that. That's an honest truth. The reality was that I desired to know God that everybody so much talks about and worships. I desire to know him very intimately. That's what I desired. And I was young, so for me, I read the Holy Quran from front to back in English because I did learn it in the Arabic language, but I can read the Arabic language. I don't understand one thing it says,
Yeah, a lot
but
of
it's very
imams are
powerful.
very big on that.
Very powerful language, although although I don't understand it, but if you recite it, it's very powerful, very powerful. That as you recite, energies of those words start to manifest, and those manifestations is such a blissful feeling as you recite it. So similar to we've done zikr; those are some holy verses, right? So when you recite it, it starts to, awaken some greatness in you. So that greatness of awakening opens up a nurturing of a void that you are feeling separated from your God. So that started my journey. And I read it front to back. I had tears in my eyes. I read, it's about basically, it's a love letter. Holy Quran is a love letter from the Creator to the Prophet. As he was an unlettered prophet, peace be upon him. And once he received those, verses, so when I read those in English, although there may be deeper meanings, there are deeper meanings of each verse. But for me, at just reading it like a normal person, I had tears in my eyes because I read about the holy prophets and messengers of back in the day, and everybody is giving the message of returning back to God, and those that went astray. That astray meaning that you are separated from your reality. That's what astray means. That you are separated from your reality. Then you're becoming in union with that reality, also known in Arabic tawheed, oneness. So I desired that, only that. So as I went through 7 years of my own journey of sitting with various scholars or imams or spiritualists, I came to a point of knowing about the mystics in this tradition. And these mystics, they were in a very height of Tawheed, and their prayers were very divine. Like Bibi Rabia Basri is a famous saint. Her name is Rabia Basri. And she said, "Oh God, if I worship you from the fear of hellfire, throw me in the hellfire." And if I worship you for the reward of paradise, take away the paradise from me. But if I worship you and if I just want to see you and I want to be in your beauty, I want to see your beauty, please do not take that away from me. And those type of when I came into these type of uh, these type of saints and sages and mystics, when I ran into their readings, I was I was in awe. And and there was some deep ones, Baba Farid, Sabir Pia, many different saints of India and different you know uh, traditional places. So then I desired, where can I find people like this? How can I find people like this? Where are they? Who are they? Then I went on my search. I was forcing to find these people. I was going left and right, and I was trying to uh, emulate that maybe this person is like the one I read, maybe that person is like the one I read, and I spent some time with some so-called mystics, but some of them turned out not to be mystics, but some of them, whatever it was, I was getting my learning from them. Finally, a time came where I felt there are no more mystics like that exist. So they're just in the books. They don't exist. Those that awaken others, kindle that fire in others, and then annihilate that ego, and you become one with the oneness, blissful in the oneness. Good, bad, ugly, up, down, left, right, all vanish. Only stays God, or we say fana fillah, annihilation in God. I don't think any of those people exist anymore. So I went into kind of a depression that they don't exist. So I just returned back to my normal routine, focusing on my prayers, etc. Anyhow, my mother came here from Pakistan, and when she came here, um, she told me about a mystic, which was my beloved master, and she had his picture with her, and I looked at him and I said, "There's something special about him." And she said that he's going to be coming to London for the first time. This was back in 2011. And I said, okay. So I just kept that in the back of my mind. I went back to my regular day. I was managing, 20 stores for, telecommunication industry. Anyways, in the back of my mind, he was in the back of my mind now. So one day I was sleeping on the couch, and I woke up with like an assurance that I had to go see him. And it was that time, it was very strong that I have to go see him. So I called my friend's mom that worked at United Airlines, and got a standby flight to go to London. And they said that only way you can get on is if there's a seat available. And
It's a nerve-wracking thing.
yeah,
It's
so
happened
I
to
just
me.
sat there. Everybody got on the plane. I was still sitting there, waiting. Maybe they'll call me, maybe they won't. I was the last person called in, got a first, business class seat, which was, also amazing.
Very
Gave me
divine.
gave me some orange juice, you know, drank some orange juice, and I was on my way to London. And then when I got there, there was a guy named Bilal Shah that I met there. So when I went to his house and I asked, in a normal way, so how is he? Tell me a little bit about him. He didn't say a word. He said, "You're gonna see for yourself." I said, "Okay, fair enough." So then we went about an hour train ride where he was staying, Ilford, London. And when he came in front of me and I saw him, uh, a piercing, you can use your imagination, but a piercing light, an arrow of light went through my heart. He had not even said anything yet. He had not even seen me yet. But just for me to see him, something going through my heart, and all of a sudden, I felt like I got touched by God. And as soon as that feeling went through my heart, because keep in mind, growing up here, I was in towards spirituality, but also a skeptic because I didn't want to get some fake guru or guide to trap me into their game because I had been through some of those experiences in my journey. So I was also in that also thought process. I had that block in me that I don't want any fraud happening to me. So whenever I met some spiritual person, I was like, I don't want this person to give me, do some fraud, because I had been through that experience. However, many people had words to speak about spirituality, but when I met him, there was no words at all. There was there was no words. So there was just a feeling which I had never felt before, ever. So when that feeling went through my heart, I went into like a high, a trance, a very deep trance, and I was just in awe the whole time. And we had not even spoke yet. I had not even say hello yet. Anyhow, when the time came to say hello to him, when I went to his room, and I the host sat me down, the host in Ilford, London, where Pir Sahib, I call him Pir Sahib. Pir Sahib is a beloved guide, the beloved guide, the beloved master. So when Pir Sahib was in his room, when Tariq Bhai, whose home we go to, he invited me into the room, and we were sitting in just quiet. Uh, I just kept looking at him, and then he said, he smiled and he said, "What brings you here?" I said, "I don't know." I had lost my train of thought. However, I said, "I've been looking and searching, and I don't know what I'm looking for, because I'm in spirituality. I followed religion. I followed everything, fasting, this, that. But there's a void in my heart, and it brought me here. It brought me into this space." And he smiled and he started speaking to other students that were visiting from different places. He said, "How God works, people come from all over the place, you know." And from that point on, when I sat with him and I said to him, "I don't know what it is, but, I never want to leave you. I just want to stay with you." And at that point, I became his disciple. Kind of like in a worldly, there's a formal a wedding, in a matrimony, two people say their vows. So I told him, I just want to stay with you. I want to be your murid. Murid means disciple, student, spiritual student, and giving um, my free will for the divine will. The transaction of love happens, so that he's training me spiritually, uh, through any type of work that he will give me. I will listen to his guidance. So that means I'm going to give myself up for whatever he says. I won't listen to my ego. I won't listen to my own thoughts. I will listen to what he has to say, because he's my mentor, he's my guide, so and so on. So in that scenario, when that happened, from that point on, I've been with him, and it was divine. My experience there for the first 5 days that I was with him, I had some amazing dreams I've never had before, visions I've never had before in my life, and they were so real, they were so vivid. I still remember them till this day. And then when I went up to him in his room, I wanted a private time with him. I'm like, "What is this?" And he looked at me, and the way he looked at me so deep within me that he just said, "Son, this is only the beginning." And that was it. And that's how we continued this work.
I got chills hearing that, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an experience I haven't had yet, though, for anyone who's a little more educated in like spiritual phenomena that goes beyond just like and nothing wrong with religion, obviously, but like the more like run of the mill religion, you don't know that this is like not an entirely common experience, but this is like a phenomena that is known. And God, that must have been so incredible, because I could put myself in your shoes, like that nap on the couch. You have this, a lot of people don't understand when they don't have a spiritual bent, that like they think people in that life are either just crazy or just have a weird hobby. They don't understand that there's these like inner things that happen that have such meaning, or that even sometimes there's like this little thing sometimes it seems really impressive. Sometimes it doesn't seem like anything at all. And then you follow it, and it leads into this really specific and like unmistakable experience. And to a very spiritual, very religious person, it's never a question of like, why am I so into this? To a more worldly person, they look at you and they don't get it. But and that's really amazing. That must have been so amazing to have, gone from that little urge or that big urge on, on a nap, and then to actually get there to see where that led. And brimming with questions and topics. But if you could briefly, you said you were willing to give up of your own ego to do what your master told you. Well, what did he tell you to do? Because I know sadly you're not sitting with him right now. Even though knowing you, I know partially you'd probably want to be. Take the whole family over there.
So, really, the training of a spiritual master, if he is a real master, the real master, a spiritual guru, master, that relationship between which I learned from the stories of many different students and masters, mystics and their students. And it's a love relationship. It's a union between two. The deeper the seeker goes into the divinity of the master, there's an experience of oneness. And that oneness comes from true love. And that true love doesn't mean that you tell me what to do and I do it. It's more to do with I love you as you wish. I love you as you wish. And whatever your vision is my vision. Whatever your thought is my thought. And whatever your love is my love. And who you love, I love. And whatever your mission is my mission. And in the process, because we are not perfect. So if it could be the littlest thing, right? It could be as little as, a person should brush their teeth in this way so there's nothing left in your teeth, or you should take a shower every day. It could be simple as that, all the way up to your a certain meditation method practice that he gave you that is only good for you because this is what you need. A certain zikr or a mantra to recite daily as homework. You can call it homework. To do it daily because that is the nutrition your spirit needs daily. Do it at a certain time before you start your physical workload for the day so you fill yourself up spiritually. You are connected with your inner self. So stay in your inner self, or a certain breathing practice to do it for a certain amount of time, or then it turns into all the time. For example, when we started this work, I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, work on yourself and everything else will happen on its own. Work on yourself. But what I realized is through my readings and my own research for 15 years prior to meeting Peer Sahib, that connection, for example, that we talk about Rumi a lot. So that connection between Rumi and Shams Tabriz, who was his master. Rumi was a scholar. Rumi was a very educated man. He had many students, but he still had a thirst. That thirst is something else. It's something for the inner self. On the physical plane, you can have a very big crowd of people following you, but if you are not content, then it comes to a point for you to realize that there's also a journey that we have to take inwards now. Although we are successful in this arena, what about this arena? Has this arena opened up for you yet? Your heart. Has it opened up? So the spiritual master, then I realized that you need the key to get into your heart. And that heart key is that meeting with the spiritual master. For example, when in our prayers, when we say the words, I'll say this in Arabic, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. Now that guide us to the straight path, you can keep saying this to an empty air, or if you really sincerely believe in guide us to the straight path, then that path will lead you to the people of God, meaning that someone that God is in them, meaning that order of God is given to them, commandment of God, meaning that it is going to awaken you also towards God. You can take all the saints, prophets, messengers of, back in the day. You can say many names. Everyone that came and arrived here, they were awakened to do the work, they did not self-proclaim. They were silent. They were surrendered beings of God, and they were hidden. Somebody doesn't have to have a beard. They don't have to. They don't have to dress in a certain way. They don't have to, follow a certain ritual. to be a God man. Actually, it's all God's command. It's the commandment of God that puts order of his placement on earth that will lead man back to himself. As we say in the zikr, La ilaha illallah, no reality, only God. La meaning I negate my ego. I negate myself. I surrender myself of the false understanding of myself. Ilaha illallah, meaning there is no reality, only one reality, oneness of reality, one God.
So, it's something you got me going, and it's something that again, if I could make distinctions, like, a worldly person doesn't really get, and sometimes even a religious person might not really get, because and it's funny because there's a famous text known as the Yoga Sutras, and there's a number of texts that reaffirm it, is that at some level, just knowledge of a spiritual teaching is almost a trap, because it's satisfying to the ego. And what I think a lot of worldly people don't understand, and I think what some religious people haven't been blessed with the experience yet, is that what, like, the reason why spiritual teachings specifically are so powerful is that you could know just the information, but then behind and underneath the information, creating of it, is like this inner experience that's unmistakable, or if at least not unmistakable, incredibly meaningful. And in my own teaching over at the School of Metaphysics, because I'm sort of away like Rumi before Shams. I have a lot of knowledge of things. And that just seemed to be the path God took for me. And I do try to still tell people, obviously you want to do some sort of practice, or if you can, meet someone who can transfer to you that makes sense to you, that would be best to unlock it yourself. Yet still I find that for any spiritual practitioner, it's somewhat good to have some of the information, because if nothing else, it helps you to make sense of this world that can seem very bad and chaotic. And if you have that secure worldview, and you're also educated to not be attached to your concepts, I think it kind of makes it nicer to go forward. So before we go a little bit back deep into that inner stuff, if you wouldn't mind just helping, even if it's a little worldly, educating our audience, would you mind explaining, like, sort of, I know Sufism is a form of, you could say it's a form of Islam. What would you say is like like, where is it a little similar to more, like Sunni or Shia, or apologies if I mispronounced that, like the more traditional forms of Islam, and then like where is Sufism a little different, if anything?
So, the first and foremost, the Islam is really, if you go back even further, the beloved of God, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is also known in today's world, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When he brought the message down, it was the reality is to return back to God. Now, as time, goes further down, in Islam means the way of life, and the way of life is the world of the inner self, to retreat back to God. Now, of course, there's going to be sects that follow their own guidance from their teachers. If you had to make the difference between Islam and Sufism, there is no difference. You can say that Islam's principles are God principles, that how you take care of this body and how you take care of its health and character and spiritually live on earth in a very in a decent way, with taking care of your family, giving everybody their rights. Brother has his rights, sister has their rights, kids have their rights, spouse has their rights. Everybody has their own rights, and we have to be responsible caretakers on earth. That's what a way of life means. Sufism is a ism. What that word, that phrase that came, was to show people that there is another aspect that people are ignoring, or they are unaware, or they're saying they're blinding themselves from it because they may think that it is not part of Islam, or it's you can say, some say that it's idol worship. You can say, some say that it's idol worship or some sort of something other than Islam. But Sufism, in other words, another word for it is known as tasawwuf. That's the actual word, tasawwuf. So Sufism or tasawwuf is the ascetic um, ascetic form, or the inner work of Islam, meaning that you go deeper within, that once you become in your behavior and you have fixed your ego, you've worked on your ego, or in other words, nafs, your ambitions and desires of the lowly self, and you work on them, you get control over them. You have the reins of those strings in your hand versus the ego has the control over you. So now, by God, by the command of Allah, naturally you start to visit the inner self. And the exterior, these form of saints of God, they appear in your life. It kind of happens in a very natural way. But I can say that I followed my first and foremost, my 5 daily prayers, but those prayers were meditations for me, because as soon as I go in a state of prayer, at that Islamic prayer, now I'm praising God, right? If I'm saying all praises to be God, then I turn myself off from the world around me. Now I am only fixated my mind on one God, meaning that I am that scattered brain of the daily busy life. Now I gave it a break. Now I'm focused on my prayer, meaning I'm not just praying, but I'm connecting and making a phone call to God. I'm sitting with Him now. I ignoring the world around me, and now I'm in a total fixation in God. So you can say that the behavior, the discipline, the method of the Islam, of the way of life, guides you towards, now, okay, you've trained disciplined yourself. Now it's time to do the work on the inner self. So that's the ladder of Sufism that takes you into four levels of the same umbrella, all the way from knowing God. Shariat takes you to Shariat, meaning the principles take you to the umbrella of the guidance of tariqat. Tariqat means that now you're under the guidance of a spiritual master. That tariqah, the way, tariqah means way, takes you into marifa. Marifa means recognition of God, which takes you to the last umbrella, which is knowing God, which is haqiqat. That takes you to knowing God. So it's just a ladder, all kind of leading to the same direction of oneness.
Thank you. I used to say, because I would explain to people, because I've come to the zikr quite a few times, and I'd explain like, oh, what's Sufism? And I feel now like I was a little ignorant. I would say something like, oh, it's a more spiritual form of Islam, which is very unfair to how beautiful and spiritual, Islam is. Right. Probably a little more correctly, I could have said it's mystical Islam. Yeah. And because of the emphasis on some practice, and then applying the practice, it's, if you want to put it in other terms, you could say it's like Islam but with a yoga. Yes. There's like a practice, and you're correct, cultivating the self to know the inner self. And that reminds me of what you were saying earlier about how we have more similarities, and that this is what inspires love in us. And I am a little grateful for some of my own research I've done, because I went into learning about that stuff, and forgive me, guests, if I already said this before. I used to think everyone's saying the same thing. And then I looked into a bunch of religions and faiths and scriptures, and I was like, wait, no, they're not. And they kind of aren't. But then you go a little deeper, start to read between the lines, especially you get the more mystic interpretations or spiritual interpretations, and then you return to, oh, yes, they are. They're saying it perhaps for different peoples, both culturally and level of consciousness, but the goal of all, I would say, religion and spiritual teaching is to raise one's consciousness. Yeah, absolutely. And there's only one place to get to. And so I'm reminded of, when you were saying some in the beginning, you're talking about like the feeling like astray and I want to come back, and that reminds me of that parable in the Bible where Christ compares, the Lord, divinity, whatever you want to call it, to a shepherd, and that we are like the sheep, and it calls us back to it. And the ego death, not everyone knows this, and full disclosure, I'm sure a lot of Christians maybe not feel this way, but there's in a lot of spiritual circles, they see like the death of Christ, Isa, as I believe you call him in the Quran.
Isa, yeah, beloved Isa alayhi salam.
Yeah, his death being representative of the ego death one has to go to reach that sort of really high place you were talking about. And yeah, I was and I love the thought that one of the things that really ties everything together is the love, you know. I was I did a writing project later last year, finished it up early this year. I made a small book called Love, which, look out, might be coming to the Above Language store. And I took a lot of spiritual teachings, namely from Scripture, because I think Scriptures is some of the highest information you can find on the planet. And I was very interested to see like what other faiths spoke of about love. And full disclosure, at least in my research, I found that Christ he spoke the most to it. But I'm also not that educated in Islam. I've read a couple of the books of the Holy Book. So I know that Birsop and your whole family are very passionate about that element of spiritual growth, which you could call love. So please share some again, or even deeper, your perspective on that, and perhaps even what your beloved teacher has taught about that.
So the interesting thing is, love cannot be taught. Love is experienced. And when I met Birsab for the first time, and every time, and I see he deals with thousands of people, I see him deal with 500,000 people or more in a given year. And when he has a gathering, you have 100,000 people sitting in front of him, and he knows everybody's name, their family, what certain problem they had, and did that problem get resolved? It's true humanity being experienced. A true healing is taking place, and from one angle, all those lovers that are there to see him is because of his love. And that love is so unconditional. I've traveled with him. I had the opportunity to sleep, beneath his feet, and I asked him, I'm like, you sometimes you're so sick, you're feeling sick, and sometimes you're not eating, and you're awake 16 hours, 18 hours just doing this work, traveling from one town to another. Some places are like, villages in very secluded towns of people that, are just living in the villages. Some are like living in mansions. Whatever the case is, you're always working. And he said, I've given myself up to God, I'm nothing. And that love I've never experienced. So what I realized is, as if it was Jesus, if it was Muhammad, peace be upon him, if it was Moses, if it was David or Dawood, we call it, Abraham, whoever that ever came, or many saints that came in, and they were like the pole, they were the attraction to the masses. Why were they an attraction to the masses? Why? What was so special about them? And that I experienced in real life. So it's very important to experience something. One thing is following the book knowledge. One thing is to truly dive into the experience and keep going to wanting to experience versus going to read about something to do with whether it's love or spirituality. But actually, one thing is the books, one thing is the experience. So when I experienced, I can watch him on YouTube, I can read his readings, that's one thing. But to be there, to experience, and to remove whatever comfort zone I have or whatever lifestyle I have and kind of dive into that lifestyle and truly experience it, that gives me a more effect and change in my own self, in my own heart, and the growth of love comes into me, and I'm able to give that love forward because I've seen the embodiment of love. So when I see Peer Sab, I see an embodiment of love, somebody that is love. And that's why, if like you're saying that, oh yeah, we are focusing so much on it because we actually were touched by something that was true love, unconditional love, and so unconditional that even if somebody backstabbed him, there is still that unconditional way and benefit of doubt for that person. Then you think to yourself, like, if somebody did that to me, I would maybe go after him. If somebody backstabbed me, maybe I'm gonna go after him, or maybe something I'm gonna say that might attack him or something, or yell at him or something, right? That's coming from the ego. But embodiment of love, showing you that even if someone backstabbed you, you're still giving benefit of doubt and letting it kind of go, that hopefully they change.
It's funny because even though I think I did meet the master one time on just like a minute, like on a Zoom call, like I was showing at your old house. I've never had a conversation with the saint. I've never been in his presence, but it's funny because like watching you get so animated and just the look on your face, it's like I know you. I feel that you probably got a lot of that love from him, and then it's like I got the love from you, so it's like this transfer.
Right.
And I am big on spiritual education, both the book stuff and the experience stuff. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand, and if anything, I think the informational guidance is good just because it helps to direct you.
Absolutely.
But what would be beneficial for people to know is that it's trying to guide you to something inside of you. So if it's like, if the road is there, you just a little bit of help of like, oh, it's that way is good. But what, when I was writing even that book on love, my humble little piece, it's like, I can tell you some things, namely that one of the most important things is you need to feel love. You need to do things to feel love and be loving, and even though people might hurt you, that's the price of unconditional love. You can't hurt them back anymore. Right. To be fair, that was probably going to happen either way. That's just human life. But anyway, is that so much of the real learning and the real growth happens when you experience it and feel it yourself. It teaches you everything. Because the only thing to learn in the spirit is what was already inside of you. And so you just need to experience it. And of course, having a community, a teacher, a teaching. In Buddhism, they call that the triple gem. Is so useful and so helpful, even, again, there's really no need to bridge, Islam and Christianity. They're obviously you could say of the same lineage, but it's like, as Christ said, love is the thread that all of the law and the prophets are weaved on.
Yeah.
What, if he was here right now, and maybe one day he might be on camera with us, but if he was here right now, what do you think would be his message to the people?
Love is the religion. And everybody that is on this path of love, and anybody that has always stayed on the path of God, has never failed. They have never failed. And unity in diversity is love, meaning that you understand that there is unity in this diversity, and that is overall love. And his message and his mission is this. Muhabbat Mission International is his message. So everybody that is working all over the world, we're talking all over the world. You can go to any country, any site, and this is his message all over the world. This is the work that we are doing here for him as well. We are, agents of love for him. We are his extensions. So the goal is, some of his messages, keep in your mind, this is not our real home. You are a passenger here in this world. When the train gets to its destination, the passenger gets off. So really, he is here. He wants us to get to our destinations, and it's through the work, meaning that work on yourself. So if you're getting these, if you have the book knowledge, now where is your application of that book knowledge? Where is your application of that book knowledge? Where is your where is your work? Where is your effort towards that knowledge? You've gotten the books, you've gotten the knowledge. Now what? You know, is it just tea talk, or is it going to apply and change your character? Are you going to change from the readings, from your knowledge, or is it not? But it's such a great discipline to have a mentor. Just in any, you can look at anything.
Oh, obviously.
You go to get a PhD, right? And now you want to become a surgeon for the heart surgeon. Now, are you going to do that looking at Google and books? No, you're going to need a mentor.
Yeah.
You're going to need somebody to teach you, and it has to be a good teacher to teach you the right way and to actually tell you, no, hold it this way, use your fingers in this way. That intricate detail to sew a heart back together, right? You're talking just a physician of not spiritual, but a physical doctor, and then you will trust him as a patient to go to that doctor because now he has a good history, he has good word of mouth, and he's trusted, right? Same in a similar fashion, you need a spiritual surgeon that is going to do a spiritual surgery on your heart, sew it back together, put it back together to the way it was supposed to be, and remove what is not supposed to be there. And you're feeling all of this happening to you as the condition is going. There's no time and space bound between your love, between your master and your connection. When you meditate together, I can be sitting here, he's 5,000 miles away. For me, he's here right now. You said if he was here.
Yeah.
For me, he is here.
Yeah.
You know? So absolutely. So his message is love. His message is that humanity is love, and his mission is a spiritual mission and a mission of humanity, to be always in love, and that will bring you also in a place where you're always in service. You're always serving, you're giving, you're a giver, not only a receiver, you're also a giver. So when we do these meditations all over the world, wherever they're happening, there's service. People are coming into your home, they're getting dinner. If they need healing, there's healing happening. They need some type of a spiritual amulet for, they don't like to take the medicine. They do take spiritual medicine. We try to, provide that to them. So all different sorts of things is for the work of light.
On that topic, I'll share that over at the School of Metaphysics, which is like one of my main pathways, a big thing that we do is the study of dreams. And you may recall this, several years ago, I was very into dreams, and I was having bad dreams. It was my belief that I was having these very strange entities in the dream. I mean, personally, I'll out myself, my belief, I think it was just some sort of astral entity. You could call it a demon if you wanted. In my belief, demons they're just people. They're just admittedly shitty people. And I was having these entities in the dreams, and they looked like human, but almost like CGI, and their limbs would bend at weird angles. And I remember I shared that with you, and you gave me one of those talismans, and I think I wore it for like 3 or more years. I still have it. Dreams ended. So just as a quick aside, now one of the things before we wrap up, I'm sure a lot of people who are willing to watch programming like this would really love to have an experience like you, where they could, I'm sure most of our audience is not uneducated spiritually. No, they've heard about the student-teacher relationship. And remind me, just because I like words, what is the Sufi term for like the student-teacher relationship?
Yeah, so that's your master is a murshid, and the student is a murid. That's the relationship.
Yeah. So having, as you said earlier, having run the gamut and sat with some people who were, spiritually adept, some people who were fakes, even some people who maybe took advantage of the situation, and then as you feel it, like the real one, what is the guidance you could give to the people who are like, how can I have that experience? And maybe because maybe it might be with someone other than your beloved teacher. What would you tell them to look for, and to be wary of?
Yeah. So, number one thing is first look within yourself, and if you are a real seeker, this is key. Before you start going to look for someone else, before anything, first sit down in the room where you're comfortable and sit with yourself, and actually your actions show for it. It's just not in your brain, in your mind, just thoughts. I'm like this, I'm like that. Forget all that. In your actions, in your character, in your personality, all of these things, are you truly sincere? As sincerity is the greatest gift of God for a person. Are you an honest person? Are you a loyal person? Are you truly there to serve others? Is it, or are you a type of person, if I help him, what's in it for me? Remove all those. If you help somebody, you don't get anything back. You did service, and that's it. And if you are sitting, doing your meditation, doing your prayers, doing your practices, only because you desire to be nearer to the one, nearer to the truth. You can call it near to God. You can call it near to the ultimate truth. You can call it, understanding, realizing myself, whatever you want to call it. The, because the reality is there are no words. If you just became silent and you just stopped talking and you stopped speaking and thinking or anything, naturally a pull would take you to your natural state. It will happen. So how sincere are you to yourself? That's number one thing. And that sincerity will automatically pull the master into your life. You understand? Is one thing is to go finding. But, there's a great saying, the master is the one that finds you. And that happens, absolutely. A master already knows you will be under his wing at a certain point. You're just, taking your journey there. And then sitting in, you're going to school of metaphysics, or sitting in some groups that teach some prayer, religion, meditation, zikr, whatever, wherever you go. Why are you going? Are you going to just because you need to be in a circle? There's a lot of reasons. You have to really sit with yourself and find yourself, because many times we're wearing many different masks. We might go to a circle just because we need some type of place to go, because we can't be alone. So people need that attraction, right? And
of course.
You need that. And you need that. We're social people. That's how God made us. So what my advice again will be, first, are you sincere? Are you a mature, sincere person to yourself? And the deeper you go into your prayers and worships and effort of meditating and sitting with the right people, filling yourself up with spiritual understandings, and when you're reading books, you're applying it and you're really contemplating on it, you're reflecting on it, and it's serious for you. You will see just all around you, it'll be different type of people. It'll be a different type of scenario. You'll be in different type of retreats. You'll be sitting under the guidance of a real saint or master that is taking you deeper into that journey that you're already on. It's all a program by the divine.
And just because we're wrapping up, but just if you could share just one other thing I wanted to ask, just because that's so powerful and so beautiful. And it's an experience I want. It's an experience I know I'm sure so many people who maybe one day will hear this will want. But if you could just also share briefly, just because I know there are wolves as well, briefly, like without naming any names, because we don't need to do that. If there's any red flags that a student should, maybe just so they don't be, because as much as we want to be open-hearted and trusting and loving, a good teacher, a good scripture will tell you not to be naive either. So just briefly, if you could share from what you learned.
Yeah. First of all, somebody that is a real, if somebody is a fake, you will spot it. You might spot it a little late. It might take you, like it took me a year to spot a fake. And somebody that's taking money from you for their services, and they're doing it in a very shady way. It's different if they're running a little nonprofit or something, and you're giving money to go somewhere. But somebody individually that you're getting really close to, and there is it's beyond teachings, right? You have to be very careful. We've seen some girls also, get harassed very, sexually and similar things. That
Always
don't
a
let
red
them,
flag if you're trying to
don't
sleep
let
with your
them,
teacher.
yeah, don't let them touch you, and it shouldn't get that personal in a scenario. But if it's like truly, the master is a mirror of God. Just remember this: master is a mirror of God. He's a reflection. He's a pure reflection. And when you sit in front of a real master, all of your negativity, all of your darkness, everything that is not supposed to be there burns. It's gone. Then that effect instantly, within a couple days, within a couple given days, if you were sincere in front of the master, you will experience godliness within you. You will become a God conscious and a very clear minded person. And when you step out of that room, you will see that everything has changed. Your veils have lifted above your eyes. That's a true master. A fake will just feed you words upon words upon words upon words and upon words, and he will need a following. He will need a money, because he's trying to create an environment of the real. But the only real is within the master. It's not in the scenario. It's not in just you have a concert of people, and because you're standing on stage and you're preaching spirituality, that's just not always real. It could be a fake. It might be just a money scheme for him or he or she or whatever the case is. But the seeker, even if it was a fake, if he or she is a true seeker, they will also receive goodness from the fake.
Yeah, I think you almost have to be a little wary of that too, because even some people who might be deceptive, they might not be wholly like an evil person. They might have been misguided by powerful forces beyond them too. Well, as we sign off, the last thing I'd love to do is, why don't you plug any of your socials or the name of your really awesome meetup group. If you happen to be in the Illinois area, Chicagoland area, you can come out. As a little word to the wise, Fada and the girls make some amazing food. They always ply you with really great food for free. Even today, there was a nice little spread for us that was a very welcome surprise. But yeah, please just plug your socials and whatever other stuff for us, so that anyone who wants to learn more easily can. We'll tag them in the video as well, obviously.
Yeah, over here we've been doing the work under Chicago Sufi Meditation, under that plug on a meetup.
On Meetup, right?
Meetup. And there's a lot of pages online, so we can always just tag them on it. But Chicago Sufi Meditation, if you look that up in Elgin, you'll find us. That should be enough.
Mubashir, Moby, my good friend, yes. Thank you for being our second official
guest.
And
thank you guys. Like I was telling you guys earlier, Gino and Alexander, this work, and anybody that's watching their work, everybody that's watching the work and receiving the work, even though you're watching it online, whatever, if you received it, that means you've been touched by it. And if you're touched by it, then you're also responsible to pay it forward. That's the service. That's always the service. And then always support those that are doing the good, honest work out there, and don't get trapped in the lowliness of life. Go into your higher consciousness. You are a treasure of God.
And lastly, shout out to Farah, who was sitting with us for a while but had to go attend to something. She's always such an excellent host. Shout out to young Hassan, who is always an endless source of joy when he's running around being silly and showing you his videos. He's going to be an up-and-coming content creator too. So with that, we're signing off for today.